Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Sam Gabriel here, and before we get into today's video, there are a few things I would like to say. Firstly, a thank you to everyone who worked on this project from beginning to end, and secondly, we would like to announce the WTC Naruto Minecraft server, which will be acting as the sponsor of today's video. On the WTC Naruto server, you can play as a ninja and build your own village. There are many different clans for you to choose from, so it would be awesome if you joined us over there. Now lastly, this is a complete series video, so if you're interested in seeing more of this sort of video, then make sure to leave a comment in the comment section and leave a like. It really does help. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get into the video. What if Deku was trained by Stain? Izuku stood in fear. He tried to keep his faith in Bakugo, but he had known the boy long enough to realize the chances of him sticking to the plan were slim. He had to come up with another plan fast. Somehow he was going to have to beat All Might in a battle. He powered up One for All and began charging at All Might. It was a ridiculous tactic, but it would have to do. He landed a few hits on All Might, but soon found himself being beaten into the ground. He tried to keep fighting. He refused to lose. He refused to let anyone down. Just as he started picking himself up, he heard a noise in the distance. He looked out to see Bakugo crossing the barrier. He stood in shock. Bakugo had put aside his pride. Midoriya and Bakugo have passed the exam. All matches for the practical portion of 1A's final have now been completed, a voice said over the speaker. The two boys were taken to Recovery Girl's office. They had both suffered many injuries. In the end, 5 students failed the practical exam. 2 teams consisting of Kirishima and Sato, and Ashido and Kaminari, respectively, as well as Sero, who did not do enough to pass. It was later announced that all students would go to the summer training camp, regardless of whether or not they passed the exam. The class, aside from Bakugo and Todoroki, all decided to go to the mall to get last-minute supplies. When they arrived at the mall, Izuku was amazed at the wide selection of items the mall provided. The class ultimately decided to split up so that they could better suit their needs. Everyone seemed to leave in a flash, leaving only Izuku and Uraraka. Uraraka left in a hurry for reasons unknown to Izuku. He decided not to worry about it, and prepared to go on his way when he heard a voice behind him.
Oh, it's someone from UA. Cool.
The somewhat harsh voice said behind him.
Let me get your autograph.
The voice stated, getting closer. Suddenly there was an arm around him. It pulled him in as if he were an old friend. Izuku wasn't able to comprehend the situation as the voice began speaking again.
You were the ones who threw the sports festival, right?
The voice inquired. I didn't throw it. I gave it my all, but I wasn't strong enough to win, Midoriya retorted.
The kid in first didn't seem to think so. I can see where he's coming from after your fight with the Todoroki kid,
the man said.
You know, it's funny. I didn't expect to see you of all people here, but here we are. It's almost like we were destined to meet again,
the man continued as he wrapped a hand around Izuku's throat, leaving his middle finger in the air. Izuku was smart enough to recognize the man.
Not well. From your perspective, we haven't met since the attack on UA, huh? Why don't we have tea or something, Izuku Midoriya?
Shigaraki's face came into full view. There was an unsettling smile on his face that unnerved Izuku, but he didn't allow himself to show fear. One wrong move and everyone in the area would be in danger. He nodded his head in agreement and went with Shigaraki to a sitting place. He knew it wouldn't help anyone if he drew attention to them, so he would stay calm and listen to what Shigaraki had to say. He would not risk civilian lives for the sake of capturing this villain. It wasn't the time nor the place.
Anyway, I hate everything. But what pisses me off the most right now is the hero killer. He refuses to join the league because I said I didn't like you. Despite what I think, he seems to be getting a lot of attention. He has sympathizers despite him rarely explaining his goals. Meanwhile, the league can barely get any recruits aside from crazies and thugs despite everything we've done. He seems to think he's so different. And you're so different just because you can be a true hero. I don't get it. He kills heroes just like I do, but he seems to think that some heroes are worth it. I just don't get it. What makes you so different?
Shigaraki asked. He had become increasingly aggressive as his question went on. Izuku didn't need much time to think about this. He knew exactly what set him apart from others in his former master's eyes. The difference is why we do this. Although I do not agree with his recent methods, he does everything to ensure that heroes have pure intentions. He resents the heroes in it for money or fame, and he made sure that I held those same beliefs and lived my life accordingly. You may do similar things, but he does them out of concern for society. You just seem to hate, and that's all. That's why he views himself as above you and your league," Izuku explained with passion. It seemed at this point something in Shigaraki's mind clicked, and he was finally able to understand why it was bothering him so much.
"I think I get why this has been bothering me so much. You guys have been tricked into believing that there's such a thing as a good hero by All Might. You think that by saving people out of the goodness of your hearts it makes up for all the pain you cause, and everyone you fail to save. He gives everyone this false hope. Even when people start seeing the flaws in society, they're still able to hold on to this false narrative that heroes will save them out of the goodness of their hearts because that's what All Might seems to do. It doesn't matter how stupid the notion is, as long as you can have someone you see as good leading you, smiling through the pain you can smile too. Everyone just smiles knowing that there's a hero who cares, as if that guarantees someone will save them. I'm so glad we had this talk. It's been great. Thank you, Midoriya. It's not my fault. It's All Might's fault."
As the man went on, Izuku tried to break from the man's grip, but he was unsuccessful.
"Oops, don't struggle. Do you want to die? Do you think it's okay for the masses to die?"
Izuku tried his hardest to stay strong. He felt himself choking. He didn't know what to do. He suddenly heard a voice he recognized. Uraraka seemed confused. She recognized he was a villain almost immediately. "Get your hands off him," she said, her voice nearing a whisper, almost questioning. Izuku knew she would be in danger if she got involved, so he tried to cover it up as well as he could. "It's nothing. I'm fine. Don't come close," he said, gagging. Shigaraki's hand immediately released from his neck, his tone changing drastically. He tried to play it off as if nothing had happened, just before threatening Izuku and getting up to exit. Uraraka rushed to his side to check on him. Izuku paid her no mind, however. He knew there was something he needed to ask. "Shigaraki Tomura, what is All for One after?" he asked, his voice almost shouting through his coughs.
"Who knows? More importantly, you should be careful. The next time we meet will likely be when I have decided to kill you,"
he answered, tone turning serious. Just like that, he disappeared without a trace. He and Uraraka alerted authorities as to what had happened. The mall was cleared and searched, but they saw no sign of the villain's presence. Izuku found himself once again at the police station, this time giving information on what had happened. Izuku wouldn't admit it, but the encounter had shaken him to the core. He was unprepared for that kind of encounter, and others could have been hurt because of it. He knew he had to take greater safety precautions in the future to ensure the safety of himself and those around him. The detective thanked him for the information and commended him for his composure while facing the villain. He walked out only to be greeted by All Might, or Yagi Toshinori, at the door. He explained his concern for his students' well-being as well as remorse for not being able to prevent and help with the interaction. Midoriya proceeded to ask Toshinori if there were people that he wasn't able to save. Toshinori explained that there were, and while he regretted not being able to save them, he tried not to take it too hard on himself, as even though he was the #1 hero, he was still capable of making errors, as well as not being able to be everywhere at once. The best he can do is be a beacon of light where he can, and hope people in other places do not lose faith because of him. His mom came from the opposite end of the alley with tears in her eyes. Izuku tried to reassure her that he was safe and they were taken home. When Izuku got home, he was met with messages from Stain asking him if he was okay. Izuku couldn't help but find this comforting. He found it nice that even after their fight, his old mentor still cared about his well-being. Izuku explained what had happened with Shigaraki and that he was scared, but he was told he handled it well. He found himself confiding a lot more than he expected in his former mentor, going as far as writing down Shigaraki's words as accurately as possible. He was met with Stain explaining how proud he was at him for standing up for his beliefs despite being under immense pressure. Stain went on to tell Izuku about how much his encounter with Izuku had influenced him. He had decided that using violence to combat violence wasn't going to get him anywhere, and that he instead had decided to return to vigilante work, hoping to spread his message by drawing attention to his actions. He had apparently taken on a new student who went by the name Spinner. He apparently sympathized with his goals and asked to join him, to which he agreed. He said that he had missed having a student and thought that having more people spreading his message would be the best thing for his cause. Izuku was glad that his mentor was able to change his ways. He plugged in his phone and went to bed, wanting to get rested so he could prepare for the training camp as soon as he could. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.